So the year is 2021. Imagine this. You're going through Netflix, you're looking for a good horror movie to watch, and you come across The Turning. You switch it on, you're watching it for about 5 minutes. My recommendation is to just turn it off. The movie The Turning, I was going to just say the synopsis, but I want to read it physically off because this synopsis, it's not true at all. So it says, a young governess is hired by a man who has become responsible for his young nephew and niece after the deaths of their parents. First off, there's no man in this movie. Second off, no nieces or nephew in this movie. Well, there's kids, but there are no nieces or nephews to anyone. As well, it's not after the death of their parents because their parents have been it's kind of been established in this movie that their parents died a while ago. So this whole synopsis means pretty much shit. And I was gonna memorize it and just say it off, but I decided, you know what? If they didn't decide to double read this and make sure that this synopsis was actually right for this movie, I'm not gonna bother learning it off. Just like they should have double checked that they actually had a correct synopsis for this movie, they should have really double checked that they had a plot because this movie doesn't have a plot at all. As I was watching it, I was like, what's the plot for this movie? Because I couldn't really make out what the actual plot was because there is no plot. There's no actual plot to this movie. There's no story that's continually moving. There's nothing that's dragging this movie along because there's just nothing there. The whole script as well. There's not much dialogue, and whatever they do say, it's not really stand outish. Nothing really makes this movie. Nothing really makes this movie memorable as well. Just like The Grudge the other day, I think The Grudge is a better movie, even though I thought The Grudge was a terrible movie. I think it's a better movie than this just because it's slightly more memorable because of the creature design and the kind of nature about it. Because this movie, even though it's a horror, there's nothing in this movie that would ever even resemble a horror movie. Nothing about this movie is scary at all. Even though I said the same thing about The Grudge, I just thought they had small little bits of horror where you could think, oh yeah, this is a horror movie, but this has nothing. It's just a bland movie, and it does really baffle me because it got two good actors in this. You got Finn Wolfhard as well. You got the woman who I actually don't know her name, but she's also in Terminator: Dark Fate, and these are two good actors. So I don't understand how they decided to do this movie because this is a pretty bad movie, especially what they've coming after. Even though Terminator: Dark Fate isn't the best movie, following up that movie with this movie is pretty shit. And Finn Wolfhard has had a pretty solid career so far, and him going to this movie, it's a pretty bad movie. The way it was marketed as well, that he was really a main character, he really isn't. It is the woman from Terminator: Dark Fate. She really is the main character, and Finn Wolfhard isn't in it as much as I was expecting him to be. The way it was marketed, it was really heavily implied like, oh, this is his movie, and he really isn't in it that much. So that's why I was like, okay, I was a bit taken back by that whole element that he really isn't a major player. Like, he's in it a good amount, but he's not as major and as prominent in this movie as I actually was expecting him to be. This movie as well, the best way to summarize it is it's boring. I was so bored throughout this movie. I think I've seen people again leaving the cinema and I was like, yeah, you're so smart, and I heard people behind me at the end saying, what is this movie? Because what is it? There is nothing about this movie. I don't know what the movie is about. I don't know what the plot is about. There's nothing about this movie that I can say exactly. Like, even the synopsis, they got it wrong because they didn't know how to explain this movie, because there is no way to explain this movie. It is just terrible. It really is a terrible horror January movie, which I thought The Grudge was going to be the worst January movie of the year, but no, it's definitely this movie, which I'm struggling to turning. I forgot the name of the movie there. That's how unmemorable this movie is. I'm not going to forget this tomorrow, or I'm not going to remember this movie tomorrow. I'm even struggling. I seen the movie like an hour and a half ago. I'm struggling to remember what happened. That's just how unmemorable this movie is as well. If you have seen it, I can't imagine you have, but if you have, why did you choose to see this movie? I only wanted to see it just because it was playing the most recent thing and I wanted to go cinema. That's the only reason I've seen this movie, but it's not a movie I would ever recommend to anyone, even if it was on Netflix. It's not a good horror movie. It's not a good movie you can sit down and watch because you'd be confused, like, what the hell is happening in this movie? So if you have seen the movie, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on this movie, because I actually kind of want to hear other people's perspective on this movie, because to me it is garbage. It's a movie I would never recommend, never want to watch again, and I would be shocked, and I mean shocked, if this movie got a sequel. But if it makes enough money, I don't know how much the budget was. I can't imagine it's a massive budget because there's not really a lot in this movie that will cost a lot, rather than the two main actors, which even that I wouldn't think cost a lot, so I can't imagine the budget for this movie was very high. So I assume maybe this was like a 5 million budget. So if this makes 10 to 15 million, I imagine we might get a sequel, but I don't really know if it will. But either way, I can't see a sequel happening to this movie because there's just no story. Like, they had no story for the first movie, so how would they have enough story to do a sequel? But anyways, if you like this video, click that subscribe button so you can see other movie reviews just like this one. As always, thanks for watching.